God has never let me down for obeying his word.
Hi, everyone. Welcome again to another episode of Hey, Mister, How About This? My name is Mr. G, and I'm your host. I am a church pastor, a middle school Bible teacher, and a father of five. This YouTube channel exists to help youth and families think through life from a biblical perspective through fun and short Q&A. Our special guest for this episode is Michael Regina, who is a Christian graphic novelist who's going to actually be answering a couple of questions that I've gotten from different youth in the last few weeks. Me and Michael have known each other for about 17 years or so, and I've got to see him grow not only as a man who loves the Lord, but also in his profession. He is an author and illustrator of various graphic novels. This was his first one. You're going to hear more about this in the interview, but From Death Till Now, that was his first one, and then The Sleepover. I'm doing this a little bit out of order because this is his most recent one. And then in between those two, he had a series of 3 books, Adamsville 1, 2, and 3. I believe that you can find them on Amazon or anywhere that you would order your books. I know that they are also in places like Barnes and Nobles and different bookstores. So the point of all of this is to hear answers to these questions from a biblical perspective. And I know that Michael has that. And so go ahead and listen to this interview, and I'll have some closing comments at the end. Michael Regina, thanks for coming, man.
Absolutely,
Thanks for
dude.
coming to
Thanks for having me.
your own office and to your screen and
Yeah.
recording this. You haven't really gone anywhere,
Yes.
but it's been good
It's good
hanging
to
out.
talk to you from a
Yeah.
distance.
Yep. Good to
Yeah.
be catching up a little bit this evening. And you jumped on this quick. I appreciate it. I think was it
Yeah,
yesterday?
man. Yeah, it was yesterday. We
Yeah,
started
yeah.
figuring it
So I'm grateful, man. And I've already talked to a lot of my students about you. A lot of them have heard about what you do. I don't know if
out.
you uh, see how often your name is Google searched, but at least this week it was a few times. I can guarantee you that much
Nice.
from New York. So I have a lot of students who love to draw. In fact, I didn't share this with you earlier, but one thing that I do is we have these Bible memory quizzes every other week or so. And
Mhm.
when they're done with it, while they're waiting for the others to finish, they can flip it over and I give them like a drawing prompt of whatever,
All
like
right.
or whatever, and they all draw on the back of it. And
Mhm.
this week, actually, I have 2. So this was one. I'll forget it.
Nice.
You can
That's
see they
cool.
wrote, hello, fellow church.
Hello, fellow
God
church.
is
Yeah.
the word that's written in there. So I thought that was pretty cool. And
That's
then
cool.
this one, this is pretty funny. This is supposed to be of me. Okay, so I'll just let you look at that there.
Ah, That's awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, I have
It's
a lot.
accurate. It's perfect.
It's super, yeah, it's spot on. I have students that really love to draw. Some don't care for it as
Yeah.
much. A lot of them do. And as I'm sure you can remember being in
Mm.
middle school, high school age, you're always thinking about at times what you want to do when you grow up and what things you enjoy. And oftentimes
Hmm.
that's kind of the lens through which we look at that age looks at what they want to do, right? What do I like to do? And I just want to do
Hmm.
that for a living.
Yeah.
Most people don't actually get to do exactly what they want to do for a living.
Yeah. Hmm.
However, the Lord has opened up some doors for you to be able to do this. I know that you have other
Hmm.
things going on as well, but um,
Yeah.
so let me give you the question first. The question is going to be just quite simply, what is it like? What has it been like to be a professional artist?
All right. Sounds good. Yeah. My name is Michael Regina. I write and draw graphic novels specifically for younger readers or what you would call middle grade. So that's like your 8 and up age. And I'm a huge horror fan. And so I have the weird position of being a Christian who loves horror and makes scary books. So I make horror books specifically. And my most recent one is a book called The Sleepover, which is like all you can get it pretty much anywhere. And before that, I self-published a series called Adamsville that I was really proud of, and it was kind of where I learned the ropes of making graphic novels and kind of like what it took to actually do this. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm currently working on my next book. It's currently called Deepwater Creek. That may change. We'll see.
Okay.
And it's sort of my take on a Jaws type story.
I do have to just say you did miss one thing because
Oh yeah,
before Adamsville was
yes. From Death Till Now. It
From Death
was
Till Now. I'm just saying it
yes.
doesn't get as much love as it should, because
Yeah,
I liked it. What is it like? What has it been like to be a professional artist?
it's it's a hard work to be really good at being an artist.
Mm.
Like there's so much competition. There's so many people who are really, really talented. And it's even hard because it's hard to like make a name for yourself. And sort of the people at the top do well, and then everyone else is sort of like trying their best, you know. And so it's hard in that sense. But and we can get into this to whatever degree we want. But once my perspective sort of shifted on it, it's hard in the sense that there's a lot of work, but it's so much fun.
Mm.
Like I don't make my comics full time, but I still produce at a pretty professional rate. I put out a book maybe every 2.5 years, which is about the same pace as every working professional does it, whether it's their full-time job or not.
Wow.
So a lot of like adjustments to my personal schedule that I have to make that work. But I just love getting to tell stories and like share that and be a part of the cultural conversation to whatever degree I get to be.
Yeah.
And I get to do the thing I wanted to do ever since I was a little kid. So like, you know, it's I still go to like bookstores and like look for my book on the shelf, and then if I find it, walk up to the front and be like, can I sign your books, please? Like
That's cool.
um in Jacksonville there may be fewer copies without my signature than there are with my
Oh,
signature,
funny.
because I try to find them and sign them as soon as I find them. But
Yeah. I'm sorry, you mentioned since you were a little kid, put
mm,
a timestamp on that if you would, roughly, at least
yeah.
from you can remember. How old were you when you had the thought of this is what I want to do in the future?
Oh, it was third grade. Like I
Okay.
remember it. It's one of my clearest childhood memories.
Oh, wow.
Like sitting on the bus going to school one day. I had always enjoyed drawing, and
Mm.
this kid next to me had like a comic that he had written and drawn, and I was like, "What is that?" And he
Yeah.
explains, like, "Yeah, I made this comic book," and it was like a light switch went off in my head when suddenly I realized like I could make these things, like
Mm.
that it was a job other people had. It wasn't like just something that just materialized in the store. Like I could be a part of this. And so I just remember going home that night and riding my bike to the store. I wasn't supposed to do that. I was I was like, I don't care. I need a pad of paper and a pen. And I took like my piggy bank and I bought it, came home and made my first comic. I actually have them here next to me. I have my first comic sitting in a drawer next to me.
Really?
Yeah. And they were like an X-Men ripoff book. It
Okay.
was like my own version of the X-Men. And yeah, I just kind of had the bug and never really got over it.
Wow, that's awesome, man. That's a very specific memory. That's cool that you can point right back to that point in time.
Yeah, when you and I met each other, I had been doing comics before that, but
Okay.
I had
Okay.
sort of given up on comics because the industry at the time had it was so steeped in superhero comics, and I had just like lost all interest in that. And also there's like a there's a over uh the way I put it, you know, there's like an over sexualization of characters and stuff
Yeah.
in there. And it felt uncomfortable to be a part of that. And
Yeah.
I didn't really want to do it. And so I had fallen in love with portrait painting in college. I had met a Christian professor who I'm still friends with today. And he had loved portraiture. He also believed in comics. And I just really latched onto him and really enjoyed painting portraits and thought that that was what I would do at a college, and enjoyed it tremendously. But yeah, at some point they're just they're there's sort of like it's very distinctly different cultures. Like fine art culture is very like, you know, we're going to the wine party and there's like charcuterie boards everywhere and people in nice gowns and like, and I'm like wearing Gravity Falls hats and Star Wars t-shirts, and I'm like, you know, at some point I was just like, I want to get back to telling stories, because something I've discovered about myself over time is that I don't draw to draw, I draw to tell stories. And
Mm.
so you won't really find me with like a sketchbook in my hand drawing unless it's I'm trying to execute on some idea that
Yeah,
I've got,
that's
you
interesting.
know. Yeah, I'm much more interested in the storytelling piece than the drawing is like a means to that end of
Okay.
telling the story the way I want to at this point. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Now you mentioned how a lot of comic books are overly sexualized and sensualized and all.
Mhm.
So I'm going to use that as a segue to kind of the second part of that first question there. As a believer, as one whose faith is in Christ, who is I identified first and foremost before being an artist or anything else as a follower of Christ. What are some unique challenges that has that you have faced then being a professional artist in maintaining your testimony and just being a Christ-like example and a light to this world, and what are maybe some biblical principles that have helped you to think through that and work through that? Maybe you could speak to that just a little bit.
Yeah, it's such a good question, and a lot to unpack in it. I think that one of the challenges, obviously, that for many artists, you are executing upon somebody else's vision, right? So I have a lot of sympathy for, say, someone like my daughter who wants to be a character designer, or someone who works for Disney, or whatever the case might be. They're operating under an employer, and they have to execute a vision that somebody else has, and that vision may not align with their values, depending on what that story is or whatever. And so one of the pressures I felt a lot growing up was, what if I can't get on a project that I feel comfortable doing? And because the story, at least in comics, is so driven by the story, the art is driven by what the story is what I mean. And so you have to be so selective about what you're picking, so that, like, I one of the things I put out, like, is like, I want to be able to, like, hand my book to my pastor at church and not be ashamed, because often a professional artist is a cog in the wheel. There's just a lot of moral issues you have to navigate and determine whether or not you're comfortable with them. There's been positions at my company that I've chosen not to pursue because I felt like I was going to be put in those awkward situations where I might have to create a piece of content for something that I don't think is helpful or necessary or whatever. That's probably the biggest challenge, is finding work, at least in a storytelling, in the story environment, like for movies, books, that sort of thing, to where you feel like you're not compromising on your values in the process of pursuing that income or that living.
Makes sense. And one thing that I've always appreciated about you over the years is that even though you've had the inner struggle of the wanting to be the full-time immersed artist and all of that, and maybe it's just good for those watching and listening to hear, especially any younger viewers, as you think through future and a career. Michael, one thing I've appreciated about you is always really fighting to keep those priorities straight, right? I mean, you're a husband, you're a father, you're a churchman. All three of those have been commitments in your life, and art has not gotten in the way of those things, and that's a good thing. There's a lot of times that our whether it's hobbies or skills or careers or interests, whatever the case is, they can really crowd the real. Not to create a dichotomy here, right? That's unnecessary, but the real important things that we're gonna stand before him one day and be accountable for. Just seeing for that to be prioritized has always encouraged me and served me and challenged me well in a lot of ways.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thanks for sharing all of that. Okay, next question here. And I told you this one is coming as well, but one of the questions I've gotten a number of times from different students has been, and honestly, I'll even not even just say from different students, as we have we have a couple of girls in middle school, and obviously our oldest Roman is in high school right now. But as we were preparing Roman for high school, and as the girls are thinking through preparing for high school, one of the questions that I've gotten a lot is, how do I prepare for high school? I've gotten in different forms. Some of them have been, were you nervous going to high school? What were things you were afraid of going into high school? Things like that. And so I thought it would be kind of neat to just hear your perspective on that, especially since in your books, I mean, you got some of those age ranges and different things that are on there. So yeah, maybe help think through both practically and even just any biblical principles that you can think of. Yeah, well, how would you answer that question? Preparing for high school.
The practicalities of like going about it, I don't know. I think I felt like it was like, it's another year of school. Like we'll
Yeah,
get
yeah,
on with it. It's like, I have two things that I look back on with one without regret and one with regret. One, the regret piece was that I think I underestimated how important it was to learn good habits of like working hard. I know that there were habits that I wasn't good at. I would stay up late at night. I would like wake up at the last minute, rush into school. There was just a little bit of a chaotic nature to my work ethic at the time. I wasn't a very disciplined person. I had to learn discipline by virtue of like your last question, which is like, how in the world do you manage to do all this? So I was like, I better learn some self-discipline, or I'm not going to be able to
yeah.
make books and have relationships and go to church. Like, I have to get my priorities. But I just didn't learn those things as a kid. I coasted a lot, and I got away with it a lot because I wasn't really dealing with repercussions until that moment. Be purposeful and like be disciplined in your time, prioritize your work. It's really not as much as you probably think it is if you're really good at like sitting down, focusing, getting into the work and getting it done. So that would be my main thing, is like you're entering into that 4 years that are really actually going to matter about like what college do you go to? What
Yeah.
is the next step that happens?
Right.
So don't take it lightly, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And then the sort of the positive one is like, remember, it's only 4 years. So don't screw it up. Like, and what I mean by that is like, you're going to have like all these pressures, social pressures,
Yeah.
friendship pressures that are going to pull against your values. And it's so important to stick to those principles, because at the moment it's going to feel so important,
Mm.
like that your friend is going to like push you to compromise on your values or your faith or whatever. And you're going to feel like this is what I have to do.
Mm.
But you will live with the consequences of that decision the rest of your life.
Yeah, that's good.
And the way your social interactions work in high school is not reality.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to graduate and you're going to realize no one cares about how popular you were.
That's the
No
truth.
one's going
Yeah.
to care.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you were like rude to your teachers, like, guess what? You're going to get fired from your job. Like,
Right. Right.
it's like, like, so it's one of those like jokes when people would say, like, oh, you're in a homeschool, your kids are going to learn no socialization. I'm like, I don't know. I didn't learn a lot of helpful socialization. And there's certain tendencies that you're taught to believe are like okay or cool. And then you get out in the world and you're like, no one cares. Like,
Yeah.
it's harsh reality. So all that to say, like, yeah, really stick to your godly principles. They will not fail you.
Mm.
And I was thinking about this recently. I was like, God has never let me down for obeying his word.
Mm.
Doesn't mean like there hadn't been consequences or like, things that have been hurtful, but I don't look back with any regret having obeyed his word. And and in the times when I disobeyed his word is when I look back with regret, and wished I would have made a different decision.
Mm. Cool. Well, I already know I'm gonna have to chop this up so much, but one thing I'm not gonna cut out
Yeah.
is what I'm calling quick fun facts. Okay.
All
And
right.
I haven't told you these questions ahead of time, but I'm gonna
Mhm.
ask them to you anyway. And
All right, let's go.
this is kind of a lightning quick thing here. So, Michael Regina, favorite dessert?
Moose Tracks ice cream.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Favorite color?
Blue.
I think you may have already answered this, but dream job?
Graphic novels.
Yeah, you got it. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Fun advice for a middle schooler or high schooler?
Fun advice.
Fun advice. Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like in middle school, like explore, try new things, learn new stuff. Don't take everything so serious.
Yeah. All
I
right.
go
Cool.
visit these middle schools and they all look so serious. I'm like, everybody calm
Yeah.
down. Like,
Yeah.
it's like
All right. Favorite Bible verse or most impactful
mm.
sermon or sermon series? You
Oh
can answer
wow.
both if you like.
Yeah, I mean, a Bible verse that really strikes me, I believe it's Proverbs 16:3. Commit your works to the Lord and your plans will succeed.
Hmm.
I think about that a lot. So, I'm paraphrasing a little bit off the top of my head, so hopefully I didn't completely butcher it, but that's the gist of the verse. And so yeah, that one really sticks with me because it really does remind me like everything I do is under the Lord. And then the other one, the sermon series, um, this is John Piper's lecture series on tulip.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
it's an old one. I don't even know if you can get it. It was like a lecture series he did for Wheaton College that really, really like knocked me out of my socks.
Okay. Cool. Awesome. That's good to know. I'll have to look that up.
Mhm.
Awesome, bro. This has been fun. This has been
Yeah,
a lot of
absolutely.
fun. I've really enjoyed this,
Yeah,
and it's good to hear. Yeah, there's a number of things you've said in our time here that I didn't even know about you. So here we are, just 17 years in. I'm still learning
there you go.
details about you. That's awesome, man.
Likewise.
Cool. Well, I'm very grateful to you for taking this time, and I look forward to just seeing youth and families grow through just the different principles that you've shared and your own story
Mm.
itself. And if you are listening to this or watching this and have not read any of Michael Regina's books, please take the time to look up Adamsville 1, 2, and 3 and The Sleepover. Sadly, I don't think you can get From Death Till Now. Uh,
No.
I happen to
The PDF is out there. The
Oh, okay.
PDF is out there. Yeah,
All
I think
right.
it's on Gumroad.
If it is out there, maybe I'll put a link in the description below on this video as well. But Michael, thank you so much for taking
Thank
the
you.
time to do this, brother. And hopefully this won't be the last time.
I hope not.
All
It'd be
right.
great.
Well, I hope you found that both fun and helpful in thinking through some of those things from a biblical perspective. Please remember to like and subscribe and add any questions that you would love to be addressed from a biblical perspective in the comments below. Thanks for watching.